Welcome back. This is part two. He gazes down in the morning light. How far off Paris seems across the long ocean. He planned to follow the coastline, flying northeast. The land's edge looks to him like green fingers pointed into the dark sea. To see ahead, Lindbergh pokes a small homemade periscope out the side of the cockpit. Sometimes he flies very close to the water, just 10 feet above the waves. He knows that at this low height, the plane glides more smoothly. The plane drones on. It cruises at about 100 miles an hour. At this rate, he will have enough fuel to reach its destination, but only if he stays on course. Besides him in the cockpit is a little book. He keeps a diary as he goes, all day long, hour by hour. It is as if he were speaking to himself. He wants to remember everything because no one else will ever really know. At 12:08, he flies above Nova Scotia. Just after 4 o'clock, he flies above the coast of Newfoundland. At dusk, he looks down and sees icebergs. In his diary, he calls them white pyramids, white patches on the blackened sea, centuries of the Arctic. He wonders what lies ahead. The sun sets far behind the plane. Lindbergh flies over St. John's, Newfoundland, at the last point of land in North America. Now he can no longer follow the land's edge for direction. He must chart his course carefully. The slightest movement could send him miles off course and risk the fuel supply. He follows two compasses and the stars to navigate. As long as the sky is clear, he is safe. But he must stay awake. He writes, "Now I must cross not one, but two oceans, one of night and one of water." Time passes slowly. It is almost 9 o'clock at night, Lindbergh's 13th hour in the air. He has completed one third of the flight. He moves through dense, curling fog, lit ghostly but white by the moon. He suddenly enters a huge storm cloud. The plane shimmers, moving up and down in the uniform blackness. He wonders, can I fly above it? Slowly he roars to 10,500 feet. Here it is clear, but it is very cold. He extends his arms outside of the cockpit and feels stinging pinpricks. He clicks on the small flashlight and peers out. Heavy ice formed on the plane's wings. He cannot risk his instruments icing up. He points the Spirit of St. Louis back down. The wings quiver as they slice through the turbulent air. The fog continues, but now at least the air is warmer. The ice begins to melt, and Limburg roars ahead through the fog and clouds to Paris, over 2,000 miles away. Space and time in deep, deep darkness. It is the other side of midnight, the loneliest hour. Limburg has been awake for almost 50 hours straight. He is closer to Europe than America. Now there is no turning back, only moving forward. He dozes for a minute and then jerks awake. One of the plane's wings is dipping crazy. In a sudden rush of fear, he grabs the throttle. He gropes for the steady center with his heart pounding. As he feels the leveling wings, he lets out a breath. He repeats over and over to himself, I must not sleep. I must not sleep. Here, high above the churning ocean, to sleep is to die. These are some of the things he does to stay awake. He leans his face near the open window to feel the cold air. He holds his eyelids up with his fingers to keep them from closing. He remembers growing up on a farm in Minnesota. He remembers being a trick pilot and walking on the plane's wings. He remembers the people in St. Louis who had paid for his plane. Sometimes he takes a sip of water from his canteen. He also has 5 chicken sandwiches with him. That is all the food he brought. But he eats nothing. It's easier to stay awake on an empty stomach. His body cries for sleep. He loses track of time. The night is endless. He wishes for the sun to rise. All right, so here's another movie clip time, and then jot down some more information.